At 2:47 p.m. on July 23, 1944, Sergeant Yuki Tanaka crouched inside the turret of a Type 97 Chiha medium tank near Guam, watching her loader prepare for an engagement they probably wouldn't survive. 26 years old, 5 months in combat, 15 tank battles, 0 times her loader lasted more than 3 engagements. The Americans had 63 Sherman tanks advancing. Their survival depended on one thing: not being seen first. But the Type 97's armor was paper thin. The 34th Tank Regiment lost 31 Type 97s in 4 weeks. The first gunner Tanaka lost was Private Kenji Yamamoto. July 8, trained together at Chiba. His Type 97 took a Sherman round at 800 yards. Shell penetrated the turret front. Ammunition ignited. Yamamoto died instantly. The second gunner was Private Masato Sato. July 19, Tanaka's closest friend, survived Philippines together. Sato's Type 97 engaged 2 Shermans near Aganya. A Sherman flanked them, fired from 600 yards. Sato was killed instantly. By mid-July, Tanaka had watched 14 gunners die. Everyone because their tanks couldn't withstand Sherman firepower. American tanks had superior armor, superior guns. You can't fight what can kill you in one shot. Tanaka studied how engagements developed. Same pattern. Sherman spotted Type 97 first. Fired accurately. Hit first. Japanese crews never survived direct hits. The problem wasn't courage. The 57mm could damage Shermans if they hit weak points. The problem was staying alive long enough to shoot. Tanaka needed any advantage to see Shermans first, position better, shoot weak points before being spotted. The solution came July 22. Communication wire from damaged radio equipment. 50 meters of copper wire. String it between trees near defensive positions. Create tripwires connected to empty shell casings filled with pebbles. Americans drove through jungle trails. Their tanks would trigger the wires. Shell casings would rattle. Japanese crews would hear them coming 30 seconds earlier. Get into position. Target weak points. Completely unauthorized. Modifying defensive perimeters without command approval meant severe punishment. But Sato was dead. Yamamoto was dead. 14 gunners dead. Tanaka didn't want her loader, Corporal Hiroshi Nakamura, to be number 15. If this story is pulling you in, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who care about these forgotten heroes. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. These stories matter. Tanaka worked with Nakamura that night. The defensive area was quiet after 2300 hours. She pulled the copper wire from salvaged radio equipment. Also pliers, empty 57mm shell casings, pebbles from the trail, and a flashlight with dying batteries. They needed to string wire across 3 approach trails. Position shell casings where wire movement would shake them. Make enough noise to alert the crew but not so much that Americans would notice. Tanaka tied wire to tree trunks at knee height. Stretched it across the trail. Attached shell casings filled with pebbles at intervals. The slightest tension would make them rattle. Just enough to warn the crew. Installing the system took 90 minutes. Her hands were shaking. When finished, they tested it. Nakamura walked down the trail. His boot caught the wire. Shell casings rattled softly. Clear enough to hear from the tank. Quiet enough that Americans 50 yards away wouldn't notice. It worked. At 0630, Tanaka heard American artillery starting. At 0937 she heard it. Faint rattling. Like pebbles in metal. The forward warning wire had been triggered. Something heavy was moving down the trail. She traversed the turret right toward the sound. Nakamura loaded an armor-piercing round without being told. Tanaka saw movement through the gunner's sight. 80 yards. A Sherman moving slowly through jungle undergrowth. But they hadn't seen Tanaka yet. The Sherman was exposed, moving through open trail. Tanaka aimed low. Track assembly. She fired. The round hit the Sherman's right track. Metal tore. The track separated. The Sherman lurched, stopped, immobilized. The Sherman's turret traversed toward Tanaka's position. The American gunner had spotted her muzzle flash. Was aiming. Nakamura had already loaded another round. 8 seconds from first shot to second shot. Tanaka aimed higher. The Sherman's turret ring. She fired. The round hit, jammed the turret traverse. The Sherman's turret stopped moving. The American crew was trapped. The crew bailed out, running for cover. Tanaka had just immobilized a Sherman that should have killed them. But she'd heard them coming 30 seconds earlier because of the warning wire. 30 seconds to position, aim, fire first. The engagement lasted 3 hours. Tanaka's crew damaged 4 Shermans. Other Type 97s in the regiment damaged 6 more using similar ambush tactics. Japanese losses were 3 Type 97s destroyed, 2 crews killed. After the battle, Nakamura found Tanaka, looked at the wires strung between trees. He understood immediately how it worked. Nakamura asked when she installed it. Tanaka told him last night. Completely unauthorized. Could face severe punishment if anyone discovered it. But Sato was dead. And Tanaka didn't want Nakamura dying the same way. Nakamura said, "This saved us today. That Sherman would have killed us if we hadn't heard it coming. We need to show the others." Tanaka started with their squadron mate, Sergeant Reiko Kimura. Kimura had lost her loader 2 weeks earlier. Tanaka showed her how the warning system worked. Kimura asked if Tanaka could help her install one around her defensive position. They worked that night. The installation took 75 minutes. The next day, Kimura's crew heard Shermans approaching, repositioned before being spotted, damaged 2 tanks from ambush positions. By evening, for more crews wanted warning systems. Tanaka installed 2 that night, 3 the night after. Word spread through the regiment. By July 30th, Tanaka had installed warning systems around 9 Type 97 positions. Major Haruko Matsumoto commanded the regiment. She noticed something was different. Her crews were engaging Americans from better positions, surviving initial contact more frequently. On August 2nd, Matsumoto did an inspection of defensive positions. She saw the copper wire strung between trees, the shell casings attached. Matsumoto asked what that was. Nakamura said it was an early warning system they'd created. Helped the crew hear American tanks approaching. Had saved their lives multiple times. Matsumoto asked who authorized it. Nakamura said nobody. They'd done it themselves. Knew it was against regulations, but it worked. Matsumoto examined the wire, found similar systems at other positions. She called Tanaka over, asked directly, "Did you install these warning systems?" Tanaka said, "Yes, Major. All of them. 9 positions total. Used salvaged materials. No requisitions, no paperwork, completely unauthorized." Matsumoto asked how many positions didn't have warning systems yet. Tanaka said, 15, Major. Matsumoto said something Tanaka never expected. "You have 72 hours to install warning systems at every defensive position in this regiment. That's an order. I'll handle the documentation. You focus on keeping my crews alive." By August 4th, every Type 97 position in the regiment had warning wires. The battle for Guam lasted until August 10th. Japanese crews lasted longer than expected. They heard Americans coming, repositioned constantly, damaged far more American tanks than predicted. American after-action reports mentioned unusual Japanese tactics. Type 97s were engaging from unexpected positions, withdrawing before being destroyed. Like Japanese crews knew the Americans were coming. They did. Simple copper wire and shell casings filled with pebbles. Within days, other units started installing similar systems. The modification spread regiment to regiment. Major Matsumoto wrote a report to headquarters describing the system. The report went nowhere. By late 1944, Japanese command was focused on larger strategic defeats. But the crews who used it survived marginally longer. Heard Americans coming. Repositioned. Fired from better angles. In tank combat against superior forces, marginal advantages meant everything. The war ended August 15, 1945. Nakamura survived. 47 combat actions, 8 confirmed American tanks damaged. He returned to his family's farm in Iwate Prefecture. He kept a photograph of his Type 97 crew on his wall for 50 years. Every year on July 23, he visited a shrine, lit incense, thanked Tanaka for creating the warning system that kept him alive. Tanaka returned to Kyoto, worked in a textile factory for 35 years. She married in 1947, had 3 sons, lived quietly. Tanaka never talked about the warning system. She didn't think anyone would care. Kimura also survived, became a nurse in Osaka. By the 1960s, the warning system modification had been forgotten. Nobody remembered that some defensive positions in 1944 had crude copper wire strung between trees. The official military history never mentioned Tanaka. In 1998, a military historian found maintenance logs from the 34th Tank Regiment mentioning Sergeant Tanaka and field modifications. The historian found Nakamura, who told the whole story. The historian found Tanaka, 80 years old, still living in Kyoto. The historian said based on survival rate comparisons, the modification had probably extended the survival time of 30 to 50 Japanese tank crews. Not saved, extended. Given them minutes or hours longer. Tanaka said she'd never calculated it. She just remembered Nakamura and Kimura and the others who made it home. That was enough. The historian published findings in 2000 in a Japanese military history journal. Tanaka received 7 letters. One from a former tank commander who'd used the system. One from a loader who'd helped install systems in another regiment. One from a museum curator asking if Tanaka would donate materials. Tanaka had nothing to donate. Nakamura visited Tanaka in 2002. They hadn't seen each other in 50 years, talked for 5 hours. Nakamura said he tried for years to get Tanaka recognized. Nobody cared. Tanaka said she didn't need recognition. She had Nakamura sitting in her garden alive. That's recognition enough. Yuki Tanaka died February 9, 2007. She was 89 years old. Her obituary mentioned her service as a tank gunner. It did not mention the warning system modification. Her funeral was small. 5 tank veterans attended, people whose crews had used the system. They wanted her family to know what she'd done. Tanaka's sons learned the full story that day. Today, Tanaka's story exists in fragments. If you visit the military museum in Saitama, you can see copper wire strung between replica trees, empty shell casings attached. It's labeled as a field modification from 1944. No name attached. That wire is Tanaka's legacy. The one that mattered to Nakamura and Kimura and the 30 others who survived marginally longer because a desperate gunner broke regulations to protect her crew. That's how innovation happens in war. Through soldiers who see problems and fix them. Who don't wait for authorization. Who risk everything because their friends are dying. Tanaka installed the warning system to protect Nakamura. That system helped dozens of others and nobody remembers her name, but you do now. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to join our community. These stories need people like you who understand that the real heroes weren't always the ones with medals. Sometimes they were gunners with wire and the courage to break the rules. Thank you for making sure Yuki Tanaka's story doesn't fade into silence.